Call this regular meeting of Southwest Licking Local School District Board of Education to order. We'd like to recognize all of our visitors, both in the room and online. If you could please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Jones, could you please call the roll?
Mrs. Engel.
Here.
Mrs. Moore.
Here.
Mr. Vincent. Mr. Ziny.
Here.
Mrs. Spindler.
Here. I don't think we have any public participation today. Okay. Then we need a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Jones?
Mr. Ziny.
Yes.
Mrs. Moore.
Yes.
Mrs. Engel.
Yes.
Mrs. Spindler.
Yes. The agenda is adopted as printed. Request to speak on agenda items Teamsters or as Southwest Licking Education Association. Seeing no one present, we'll move on to item 3, approval of meeting minutes from the June 16th board meeting.
Motion approval.
Second.
Any discussion? Mr. Jones?
Mrs. Moore.
Yes.
Mrs. Engel.
Yes.
Mr. Ziny.
Yes.
Mrs. Spindler.
Yes. Item 5, personnel consent calendar. Looks like A through L.
I think you
Get the
skipped
finance
4.
calendar for
Yep.
Oh, did I skip one? All right. Item 4, financial report.
Motion to approve 4A.
Second.
Mr. Jones?
Had the actual fiscal year end 22 financial report. For the year, we ended up about $3.2 million better than we anticipated. Revenues were higher than we expected and expenditures were lower. Just one quick thing to point out, just one thing I noticed as we're going through significant expenditures, we always report substitute cost. So for last year, FY22, for certified subs, we had over $405,000. The year before, we had $145,000.
Oh.
So last year was a tough year with everything with subs.
Yeah.
Classified subs were fairly consistent. It was about $32,000 higher, but there was a big jump in certified subs from the one fiscal year to the next.
Okay.
I'll be glad to answer any questions you have.
What was that normal average? 105?
Right, 145, yeah, right around there. Yeah. I mean, school sub was a big number. It was just
Yeah.
a lot of teachers being absent, teachers filling in. I mean, like the first period, we had 1,500 requests. So, I mean, that was like 3 times, 4 times more than we ever had in the past. So, it was a tough year last year. I mean, Dr. Perkins knows they were trying to find subs, a lot of even, basically a lot of positions unfilled throughout the year. Definitely a challenge. So, hopefully we have a better result this coming school year.
Any thoughts on that, Dr. Perkins?
I mean, he's correct. The first half of the year was the worst. We didn't have enough coverage, so that was prompting teacher coverage, which is a little bit different expenditure-wise. However, we did raise the sub rate, which helped us get more subs, but we also raised the sub rate. So it will be interesting to see what that number looks like next year. Hopefully, attendance is better. COVID's around well. According to the health commissioner today, we're doing quite well in Licking County. So
Okay.
hopefully that continues. Hopefully we continue to see a decline in that, and then hopefully we see an improvement in our attendance next year. But it was probably the worst year I can remember in my time in the district.
Is there anything as far as encourage any ideas maybe to kick around as far as encouraging, with the kids we like to use some PBIS? How about kind of something in that same genre for
Sure.
good attendance? Maybe?
Yeah, we can talk as an admin team about brainstorming some pressure on everybody. It puts pressure on the teachers, because teachers have to cover for it themselves. It puts a lot of pressure on the admins, it puts pressure on the secretaries trying to call people to find coverage. I mean, everybody feels it when attendance is bad. So I'm absolutely up for brainstorming and trying to come up with something, creative ways to promote,
Yeah.
our attendance. Absolutely. We can do that in 2 weeks when we meet.
Okay.
Anything else for Mr. Jones? Mr. Jones?
Mrs. Engel,
Yes.
Mrs. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Zani,
Yes.
Mrs. Spindler.
Yes. Now, item 5, personnel consent calendar A through L.
Motion approval, A through L.
We'll second that.
Any comments, things to point out?
I don't think there's anything significant to point out. We are almost done hiring. A few little surprises in there, but we're trying to wrap that stuff pretty quickly. Obviously, with school starting next month, so we're almost done. But other than that, nothing substantial to talk about.
Anything else? Mr. Jones?
Mrs. Moore,
Yes.
Mrs. Engel,
Yes.
Mr. Zani,
Yes.
Mrs. Spindler.
Yes. Item 6, personnel. I can motion approval for 6A through B.
Second.
Mr. Jones?
Mrs. Spindler,
Yes.
Mrs. Moore,
Yes.
Mrs. Engel,
Abstain?
Mr. Zani,
Yes.
Item 7, business items. Is there anything we need to
Take them all
pull?
one time if you want.
Okay.
Motion to approve 7A through K.
Second.
Any discussion?
Go through real quick. I said policies first reading, and if you guys say anything about the overnight trip or anything. Lack of service agreements, a usual agreement with them every year. Insurance renewal with EMC is about 4% higher than last year. Mainly that's because of increase in property values. Construction values of buildings and so forth. E&F, it basically is seats for students that we need. G, H, and I are all amendments to the contracts for the various agencies as a result of switching from Pataska 11-man to our new K3, 23, 27-man. So obviously additional fees because based on the cost of the project. J and K are settlements for complaints school district filed against these two entities for property values. I had to sign them because the law changed July 21st, and you can't do these after July 31st. So our attorney says sign them and ask the board to ratify them afterwards. So it's a settlement to state some certain values that's acceptable to the school district and to the property owner, and make a payment for the revenue we're losing as a result until the reevaluation happens in 23, and then we can go from there. But it's actually recommended by a school attorney that these are good deals for the
Okay.
district.
Any questions on any of these? Mr. Jones?
Mrs. Engel,
Yes.
Mrs. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Zani,
Yes.
Mrs. Spindler.
Yes. Item 8, treasurer's items.
Motion to approve 8A and B. 8A with thank yous.
Second.
Any discussion? All right,
I,
go ahead.
with the transfers to the yearbook,
Yep.
are we looking at trying to resolve such a negative balance? What are we doing with that?
Yeah, we're Mr. Tanjeski is working with Melissa Ladowitz to come up with what we're going to do. We're going to have to do something different. It continues to happen.
So what, just people order them and then they don't pay?
It could be some people haven't paid their fees yet, and/or the cost of the yearbooks are rising. The amount of kids ordering them, it's not equaling out. We're not making the money to pay the advisor. So every year her stipend goes up per the
Okay.
negotiated agreement, and we're not selling enough yearbooks to cover both.
Probably
Based on the cost.
Easiest way to resolve it is to put it back in general fund and cover it. That's the easiest way, because that's all it is a stipend that basically is getting paid to the teacher to run the yearbook. It was part of the '05 cuts the board made to eliminate the yearbook and make it self-sustaining. It's been that way ever since, but the last 2 years, in my understanding, we reached out and they said the principal does not want to raise the price of the yearbook.
And the cost of the books by the company continue to go up like
Right.
everything else. And I will say, I understand, but it does stink to have to move that from the principal's account. That's the high school doesn't have a PTO like the K through 8 does, and so that takes away money from that she's allowed to do for staff and student incentives, which I believe both are very important. So
Right.
I don't like to see that. So I would be all for what Rick is suggesting.
And to be honest with you, this wasn't the full amount. She didn't have enough money in principal's account to cover the full cost. There's still like about another $250 that's negative in the yearbook count because the principal account is now zero at the high school.
And so now, that's just money, that I like to see that's spent in positive ways towards staff and students. So I would prefer not to have to take it from there moving forward if we don't have to.
Are there other options that people are interested in buying?
I don't know. We can see if I'm sure Melissa would be completely on board for having doing some sort of survey with the kids to find out. I don't know. It just seems the kids. I don't know, with technology. I don't know.
Right.
It's sad. It really is, because someday on down the road, that's something they might really truly wish they had. But I can ask Melissa. She can include that in probably something in the beginning of the year and find out, what kids are asking. Or
From a personal standpoint, and having only one going through high school so far, I only bought the senior year because of the expense.
Right.
And I also the history of what happens to all the other ones that have been laying around. So I just bought that last one, which would be my plan moving forward. But I don't know. Is there other companies? Are we
I don't think it's-
contracted with the specific?
Yes, but I don't think it's a company issue.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think that's the issue.
So this, I guess I'm a little bit confused by, the school subsidizes the cost of the books, so the books are more than what, because I paid like almost $100.
Right, and the cost of the yearbook keeps going up, but we're not
charging more.
We're not charging more for the kids, and so then to pay the teacher stipend, we have to make up that money somewhere.
Yeah, they're actually not subsidizing the book itself. They're
Yeah.
subsidizing the
Salary.
stipend for the advisor.
Okay, because I'm like, I paid $100 directly to Jostens for each book, so
Yep.
that's what I'm saying, so I'm like,
Yeah, it covers
so
the.
that's a little bit misleading, what's there. It's not that we're covering the high school yearbook, we're covering the high school yearbook advisor.
Yes, stipend.
Correct.
Yes, because it's supposed to be self-supporting.
So it's not that we're covering books for kids, we're covering,
Well, are we going to have this problem in the middle school now that we've got the yearbook class?
We've had yearbook for a few years. We haven't had it.
Have
Seems like the high school is the only one that's having the issue, but that's the only one that
They
doesn't
might have
have
done it
PTO.
maybe online. Maybe they didn't sell them. I
All the
can't
other
I
remember.
mean,
colleges.
I have
think they did,
another
though.
potential suggestion.
Okay.
When I was in high school, eons ago, the class
Do they use a stone?
we went. Yes, we typed everything out with a typewriter, and but we did go. Like part of what we had to do for the class is go to local businesses and sell ads for the back of the yearbook. I wonder if we had our students going to get ad money as opposed to just sending out letters, like going there as part of their homework, asking for, would you like to purchase an ad for our yearbook? I don't know if that'll help. It may not make a $33,000 difference or $3,300 difference, but I mean, it's another idea to pass along, I guess.
Sure.
I don't know.
Okay, I don't have any more questions.
Any more questions? All right, Mr. Jens?
See where I'm at here. Mrs. Engel,
yes.
Mrs. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Zani,
Yes.
Mrs. Spindler.
Yes. Item 9, superintendent items.
Okay, so I do have a few things, just more like informational. So, disappointing news, the GMP for our additional athletic project, our the additional things we want to do, came in at $321,000 more, which is interesting because, well, it's just interesting. But anyhow, so that's Alfred's bid, the only bid we had. So we have a conference call on Monday with Alfred to discuss this and try to have a little bit better understanding of what happened here and what's changed. And then based on that, and Rick can jump in if he wants, we'll have to potentially come back to the board. And because of the timing, we might have to have a special meeting too, because we're on a pretty tight timeline to move forward with that project. I don't know if you want to add to that, Rick, or if you think.
The bid came in about 1.6, 2.1 million. That's for the basically the 2-story softball press box and concession stand and the baseball field and bleachers. I'm not sure why it came in higher, because I'm talking to them a little bit afterwards. I thought they'd come down, but their actual bid was a little bit lower. But once they add in the GMP fees, like the general conditions, that put it way over. So our attorney says with the GMP, we have the ability to negotiate.
Okay.
So part of the call on Monday is see if there's things we can do to bring that price down. The other thing that Dr. Purdy brought up is they are having some issues with tennis court and stuff with running behind and not tennis courts right now, maybe October.
Oh.
And potentially softball fields not until April of 23 because of things getting ordered and getting in. So the other thing is part of the watering of the field, they had hoped to get wells. Well, they dug the first well, about $26,000. It was only giving like 8 gallons a minute out, and they need 70. So they said that was kind of a bad spot. It's sitting on bedrock. So we may have to bring in domestic water, which is probably going to be the best option, versus the other option is to build ponds. So change our detention into retention that has water in it all the time. I just don't like that idea with kids around and stuff. We'd rather, if we're going to need domestic water for the concession stand, so the thought is we may need to go that way, but that may cost a couple $100,000 more to do that. But I think that's probably, Dr. Perkins and I talked with Mr. Janelle today, we probably think that's the best option. So we may need to come back to board with some more money to do that, but that'll give us long-term fields water for concession stands, water if there's ever future bathrooms there or something. We think it's probably the best option for the district for the future. So that's kind of what we're running into with the fields right now.
So we'll know more Monday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just the timing of things. Unfortunately, we couldn't have that for tonight. And then also, I think this is positive news. I believe it was last week, although the weeks are kind of running together at this point, but had an opportunity to meet with the new juvenile judge, Lang of Licking County. She's trying to reach out to build relationships with the schools. She was very receptive to listening to some of our issues, the truancy specifically, and kind of how the courts can partner with the schools and what we can do together. So I think that's going to be extremely positive for the district. Combine that and, like I shared with her, bring in our own truancy person next year. I think those are going to be two really great variables to get us moving in the right direction. They did say she had with her the one that oversees truancy for the county, and we have one of the highest rates of attendance versus, so that is good. That is really positive for our district. So we're right below Granville, so that is good. But we can always do better and work to help those families and kids that aren't coming to school. So that's a positive. And then also I wanted to just kind of put a bug in your ear to keep an eye out for your newsletter. They should be arriving August 1st. So it'll have lots of information, back to school, our street fair booth coming up that we'll have, just anything back to school wise parents need. Next month I'll bring to you our enrollment. So let's just put it this way: we ran out of enrollment appointments in order to make the busing cutoff. So we're having to get creative now. So.
Yikes.
That will be an update coming to you next month, and that's all I have.
Did the kindergarten registration slow down, or is it higher than?
No, we're doing okay right now with kindergarten. The thing is about that is we have all of these families that have been 30 some, I would say. I think the number was last time I looked, that have been kind of in the queue, like they started the process and nothing's happened. And this is after Jesse has reached out to them multiple times. So sometimes those are things that, maybe they have moved or maybe they're going to a private entity, but a lot of times I'm not sure what's going on. So we're doing okay. I'm not as worried about kindergarten as I am as other grade levels
Okay.
currently. Any other questions for me?
Okay. Item 10, request to speak on non-agenda items. Seeing no Teamsters or Southwest Looking Education, I will move to item 11, adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Any discussion? Mr. Jones?
Mrs. Moore,
Yes.
Mrs. Engel,
Yes.
Mr. Zani,
Yes.
Mrs. Spindler.
Yes. This meeting is adjourned at 7:21 p.m.